One of the most news-packed weekends in show history. We take a dive into it coming up next.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, alongside Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. The best way you can help us grow the show is to listen to us or watch us every day. Today's episode is presented by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. With multiple storylines swirling around them, the Cubs played their best baseball of the season thus far and took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. And that is going to be third segment because all those storylines include PCA and Tucker extension rumblings that we're not even going to get to for 1 second on this episode. Justin Steele, which we're about to lead off with, Carson Kelly, Seiya Suzuki, and other storylines as well. Not only tonight, but really throughout the week. So Cubs announced Sunday that Justin Steele will undergo season-ending surgery. And I'm not sure if people caught this on both his left elbow and left forearm. Steele has dealt with elbow tendonitis since last August and missed 3 weeks due to a forearm injury in June 2023. It's unclear whether Steele will have traditional Tommy John, which he had in 2017, but the surgery will take place this Friday. Sam, a lot going on in Cubs land, and we're here to talk about it.
You know, I don't want to spend too much time on the, off the air stuff, but this was probably the most I've ever thought about a show and just like how much there is to discuss. I mean, we had a lot to talk about before the Steele news dropped on Sunday afternoon. But I'll start with this. Obviously, Cubs gave us some great medicine on Sunday by winning, which really helped. And the extension stuff, as you mentioned, I think will be really prominent to talk about early this week. And I think a lot of that's probably positive talk. But the Steele thing was devastating. And I think before we get into, okay, well, what now? And what did they do wrong? And not this. I just think it's appropriate to just kind of just zoom in on that for a few minutes. This is a guy who I believe most tenured, non-hap, most tenured Cub. I think that sounds right. I could be wrong.
That sounds right.
Nico, probably Nico. But, a story where the Cubs have had so many bad stories of developing pitchers and not doing that. And here's one that they did homegrown develop. And a guy, as you mentioned on, I think Thursday, basically since the second half of 2022 has been one of the 10 best guys in the game. And the one bugaboo with him was injuries, and every injury besides for the fluky hamstring injury last year was this. And I speculated on the watch along on Friday that, if it was going to go bad, it was obviously, hey, this is going to keep reoccurring unless you have this type of surgery, which would knock out the year. And I thought it was interesting, Matt. You didn't catch this because you were doing radio today, but Buster Only came in. You know how he pops in on these ESPN broadcasts.
Yeah, was he in the dugout?
Well, so he was, but this was like a mid-game drop. It was like in the 6th, and said that it was actually Steele who called Hottovy yesterday to let him know that he needs surgery. So what that tells me is that this was probably more of a Steele-driven decision, versus like, I'm sure the team obviously said, hey, okay, let me look at this, whatever, but it's probably what's best for him to be able to have a long career. And, it just hurts. And, I'll just close by saying that I don't think I'm the only one that feels this way. I don't think you have to be a podcaster. I think you could be a diehard fan, which we are too, where you just become really attached to these guys. and they pitch every fifth day, or in position players cage, they play every day, and especially the good ones, the ones you like watching that are really good, and you just become fixated on, okay, today's a Steele day. Like, those are fun days, watching Justin Steele pitch in the summer. And I mentioned on my short today when it dropped about how, like, this is a guy, and you've said this before too, and I think you believe the same about Imanaga. When you think about October baseball, Wrigley Field, Justin Steele's on the mound. And so,
wow, that's sad.
yeah, and so it hurts
knowing that's their goal this year.
And we've had a lot of injuries to deal with Steele, Seiya, whatever. But this was the first one that ever was like, oh, it's April and he's done for the year. Like, imagine if we knew that information in the offseason and all those things. So it was just really, really tough day. And I'll just close by saying that, we're going to talk about what's next and whatever soon. But if now more than ever, the Cubs need to extend Kyle Tucker, because it wouldn't be right if you're the 1 year you have a player of this magnitude, arguably your best pitcher wasn't even there for it. And so I guess that's where I'll start.
Yeah, because then they also have the prospect capital to acquire an adequate Steele replacement.
Sure.
If they know Tucker's going to be around.
Right.
So yeah, the big, really the main headline here for me, and even as you paint that picture, it's not that it's disappointing. It is more of a sadness. And one probably the most common question I get from students, from adults, from whoever that knows about the show is about guests.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we're not a guest show. And if it is, it's got to be a good opportunity, a special opportunity. And Justin Steele has been on this show, and it was a great time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll remember that for a long time, and hopefully we could continue to be in touch with him.
Yeah.
Throughout the years, and the Cubs are now without a top of the rotation guy in a year in which they have to make the playoffs. Otherwise, big changes might be on the way. And that's all there is to it. And since joining the rotation full-time in 22, Steele has thrown over 400 innings with an ERA of 2.97. He's been a top 20 guy in the big leagues for sure. He was both an all-star and finished fifth in Cy Young voting in 2023, with the exclamation point, I believe, being that Labor Day outing against the Giants, the sub 2-hour game there in 2023 to seal his top 5 Cy Young fade. So there's 2 big questions now. How do you fill the 25 starts remaining in the rotation? And can you still win a division if those fillers are just number 4 and 5 type starters? And that's what we're going to discuss right after this.
This episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Right here, and I've upgraded to the bigger bag, I have the chili roasted flavor that I have been loving for quite a while now. I'm a grazer throughout the day, guys. I don't have time for a full meal in the middle of work. So if I'm in between meetings or equipment runs, these little green wonders pack the protein punch I need to get me through the day. And I can't recommend the chili roasted kind enough. It is absolutely packed with flavor. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Jed Hoyer might try to make a trade to fill the Steele spot in the rotation, but we know that those are more likely in July. And Hoyer, whether it's by choice or requirement, really will be cautious and conservative this early in the year. Internal options, Sam: Colin Ray, Jordan Wicks, Javier Assad. all those names, for the most part, based on past performance or really present and future performance or projection, fours, fives in the rotation.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
you know what? I really wanted the Yankees to be a comp here because they lost Garrett Cole.
Great point.
But the problem is this: they have a pitcher that can clearly be a number one in Max Fried.
Yep.
They have a pitcher that can clearly be a number two in Carlos Rodon.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, but the Cubs don't have that. We're comfortable with Imanaga at the top, but
And then Gil will
this
probably
is-
come back, right?
yeah, Luis Heel,
Yeah.
Clark Schmidt,
Yeah.
really other guys too, because their rotation is decimated right now.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets tricky. Tyone is a 3 or 4 that now needs to pitch like a 2 or 3.
Yep.
Boyd's a 4 or 5 that now needs to pitch like a 3.
Yep.
And Brown is a second-year big leaguer who needs to at least pitch like a 4.
Yeah.
And that's where I see, the troubled waters happening.
So I think the first step here is to like embrace, okay, accept it, right? Like this is the new reality. All right.
Yes.
My biggest concern initially, because I haven't had a lot of time to think about it, happened this afternoon, is that so I think Matthew Boyd has thrown the ball outstanding to start this year. Like I think he's been great. The problem with Boyd is he's a guy that we were like, well, 120, 130 innings would be great. Now he turns into a guy that kind of has to be a really reliable dude. You mentioned it really well with all those guys. I think step one is like Colin Ray threw the ball really well Sunday night. That was a really good sign. And by the way, it wasn't like he just threw the ball well. He looked really good. Like he was throwing 95, 96. He looked really sharp. So I think that, I don't think they're going to do anything right away in terms of externally. I think you kind of just, okay, let's see what we have here. Let's see how Brown looks his next time out against whether it's, I think, San Diego or Arizona, one of the two. And then, can Brown be consistent? Okay, we're monitoring how Cade looks. Let's see how Assad looks Tuesday night. Now, that's the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Long term, to your point, is they're going to need to make a move, maybe two.
Wow.
I think there's two.
Well, that's going to be hard to do.
Well. First, let me explain though. I think one of them could be small. You mentioned a guy like Martin Perez. If they were to bring in a guy like that, competent veteran, you throw out there on a Saturday against Arizona at Wrigley, hypothetically, and you're like, okay, he could get the job done.
Yeah. So one more guy for depth, one guy for impact.
Yeah, and but I think Perez would be. I think he'd be a depth plus, like a depth plus.
Okay.
Like I think that's a bigger move than like a Kyle Gibson. I think it's like a step up.
Or was that a step up from Chris Flexen?
Yes.
Right,
so you get a guy like that, and maybe that gets you to a month or two, and then you're going to have to take a big swing. And they mentioned on the broadcast Sandy Alcantara. Unfortunately, first of all, Alcantara, I'm not like people. This might throw people really off. I'm not positive Sandy Alcantara's like better than Justin Steele right away. He obviously has a higher ceiling, but he's coming off some stuff, whatever. But you're going to have to pay a lot. You're going to have to pay 150 cents on the dollar to get him now because they're not fools. They know you need him. Maybe a Pablo Lopez because the Twins look like they might stink. Maybe something like that. I don't know, but my take would be in the next couple of weeks, maybe it's an internal promotion. Maybe they grind it out, or they do a small move like I just suggested with a Martin Perez type. But then long term, yes, they're gonna if they're playing the way they're playing. And let's be honest, they look like a pretty good team right now. They're gonna have to take a big swing at somebody whether they want to or not.
I like the small move idea just because I think it could happen like in 3 weeks.
Right.
And you would have to overpay to the White Sox or the Rockies. I'll give you some more names. You'd have to overpay a little bit, but it would be worth it, I think. And then you mentioned the two names to take big swings on that are under control. And maybe you throw Luis Castillo of the Mariners in that convo as well. But then you have really a ton of rental names. The only issue with rentals is who of these guys are on teams who likely will be in playoff contention in July when a trade of impact typically happens. So I think the names to look at right now that are rentals, even though Martin Perez has a mutual option for 26, but he's otherwise a rental, would be him. And then you get your gym shoes on, or you buy your ticket to wherever the Rockies are, and you start scouting Herman Marquez's starts and Cal Quantrill, because those are the other names that would be purely depth or maybe depth plus for a short period of time as well. But I really think it's going to be Ray, Wicks, Assad, and Flexen and Cade Horton would be next internally. But very to be determined whether or not those guys are actually in the plans.
Yeah.
Flexen has logged thousands of innings, but he's not on the 40-man. Either is Horton, but he'll probably be more in the convo this summer if all goes well for him.
Well, I think this injury basically guarantees now Ben Brown is a guy that you got to rely on every fifth day. And Saturday night, he showed you why he earned that job, which was probably out of everything that was so surprising this weekend. That's pretty close to the top of the list. I mean, he was excellent against that team. And, a lot of young guys are going to get opportunities. Cade Horton, if he continues to stay healthy and pitch well, he's going to get an opportunity. But there's going to be some external help one way or another. I would assume that the small move happens quick, maybe like you said, within the next couple of weeks to a month. And then at some point, they're going to, like you said, have to take a big swing. It's just hard to take a big swing in mid-April because teams are still, hey, we got a chance, outside of the White Sox and the Rockies.
Those are the only two teams.
Yeah, I think those are the only two teams that are ready to sell right now. What's
so Perez, Quantrill, and Marquez, but then I guess we could chew on these names from now if we want to dream a little bit. I mean, first of all, they're going to face one of those guys Monday, Dylan Cease.
Right.
Who the Cubs talked to the Padres about already.
Yeah, it's just going to be tough. I mean, what are they, like 13-3 or something?
Yeah, I just don't think he's going to be in the convo. Yeah. The one interesting team, they play at Wrigley next weekend, just because of how the Padres, Dodgers, and Giants have played.
Yeah.
Do the Diamondbacks try to get something for Gallen and Kelly?
No.
Okay.
Nah.
They
got not now. Give it a month or two.
No, I'm saying in July.
Oh, in July. Oh,
no,
absolutely.
There's no trade. I mean, I would be shocked if any trades happen now.
Oh yeah. If they're
for a depth guy.
Oh, if
I'm
they're
talking in July.
If they're 5-6 back, absolutely. That you could.
So if they're 5+ back on July 20th, you think they're going to trade those guys?
I don't know. I'm not going to say it certainly, but they'd absolutely be on the table.
Those are the intriguing names.
Yeah, those four. If they're chasing teams. I mean, I think they're better than the Giants.
So do I.
But I'm not sure about the Pods and Dodgers. No. Anything's on the table, especially for
Chris
a small market
Bassett
team in
is
July.
a rental.
Yeah. So no, Alcantara, those two guys. There's a lot. I think that the challenge is going to be getting there for the Cubs. Because look, we talked about it. It's important to mention this before we move on. The Cubs made their bed. Now they got to lay in it, right? They had opportunities to upgrade this before it got here. We knew going into the year that for this rotation to work, Steele was going to have to be great again, which I felt pretty confident in. Imanaga was going to have to be great again. Tyone was going to have to be closer to what he was last year, the year before. There's a lot of ifs, and you could have put a lot of those ifs away by just simply spending a little bit more money or executing a trade. I memean, I don't want to keep bringing it up because people are probably tired of it, but man, I would love to know in detail what happened with Luzardo.
Yes.
Because that's, you have Luzardo here. This blow feels a lot easier to take. But, he's also a guy that can get hurt anytime. This is just the nature of the game. And the nature of modern baseball. You just got to be really good about having pitching depth. The team that you just played and beat, by the way, which we're about to talk about, they won the World Series last year with 3 healthy starters in the playoffs.
Crazy.
And one of them wasn't even on their radar. Buehler, he wasn't even a guy until the end of the year. It was Buehler, Flaherty, and Yamamoto. And then they basically just did like bullpen games. I mean, it's a tough situation, but I will say the game has changed to where you can get away. It's not like it used to be where you need to have that number one and that number two. This will give Counsell an opportunity. I had a friend text me and say, well, Counsell was going to earn his paycheck now, to really be flexible with that. But just gutted. So much more coming from this. This is fresh. But the Cubs are going to have some work to do with the pitching.
And it helps to keep winning games, which is what they did this weekend. By the way, one more name, because again, I really think rentals are the more likely route, although I'll be pleased if they get an Alcantara. How about a third trade with the Astros, this time for Framber Valdez?
Yeah, they'd have to struggle
to put at the top of the rotation. Yeah, Astros are struggling right now. We'll see if
they'd have to keep up.
Lasts. All right, Cubs took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. Let's get into it next.
This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Folks, I spend way too much money on food delivery, eating out, online delivery services. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how bad it was. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
Cubs took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers, 3-0 loss Friday, 16-0 win Saturday, 4-2 win Sunday. Cubs now 11-7 in the rubber game Sunday, first rubber game of the year. Crow-Armstrong at 2 homers, and the first start in the Steele spot went to Colin Ray. Went 3 2/3, got a surprising 5 strikeouts. Ray on the year has allowed just 1 run in 9 frames.
He's looked good.
And a parade of relievers, Keller, Thielbar, Roberts, Merriweather, Hodge, Presley, all finished the game out of the pen, including the last 2, barely throwing a single ball in their appearance. Very encouraging from them. 16 runs on Saturday was the worst shutout loss in Dodgers history. Ben Brown, 6 scoreless. Matthew Boyd, 6 innings of 3-run ball on Friday. Michael Busch also homered Sunday and went 6 for 13 in the series. Sam, this is incredible.
I like to speak a lot in hyperbole for comedy, but I'm not exaggerating when I say this was one of the more fulfilling series wins that we've had covering this show. When you consider the Steele news before Friday, losing a predictable game Friday, then dominating this team 16-0, and then on Sunday, I mean, I rarely kind of just chalk up a game during the year. I had chalked this one up. I'm like, hey, let's see what happens. And they hung around. And really, if you want to get technical, we get on them about, losing games like the Diamondbacks finale, the Padres finale. This was a game. I mean, the Dodgers, had opportunities. The Cubs kind of stole this game. And
Totally.
Pete Crow-Armstrong entered the 2025 chat, as I'd like to say. He had 2 home runs. His second home run was against, he had home runs today off Tyler Glasnow and Blake Trinan. So that's pretty impressive. And then he had a left-on-left triple in the 9th. Like you said, you mentioned Michael Busch, but for me, the fulfilling part of this game was 8th, 9th inning, Dodger Stadium. And don't think they didn't take it seriously. They pinch hit Freeman. They were into it, and it was easy work for those guys. Shout out to Ryan Presley. Obviously been really hard on him. His, best outing by years. Heck of a play there by Dansby, 2 in the 9th. And, you watch this game, Matt, and you understand the value of a superstar when when they don't play well. Like when Ohtani is human, this lineup you can navigate around. I think he went 0 for the series. If he's going 0 for the series and Freddie's not playing or hampered, with all due respect, I don't lose a ton of sleep over Kike Hernandez.
Well, you called it after the first two about their lineup.
Yeah, I don't lose a lot of sleep about, over Miguel Rojas. I don't lose a lot of sleep about, Edman as a righty, but you were able to flip him around Saturday and Sunday. So just an amazing effort by the Cubs. I thought the key part of Sunday's game, just to get my mind off all the other news, because I like talking about this stuff, Caleb Thielbar came in and was not competitive. And Ethan Roberts comes in, gets a line drive right at Matt Shaw. Well, not right at him. Shaw made a pretty good play. And then he retired the next guy. I think it was Rojas. Right? Yeah, it was Rojas. He fell behind 3-0 and retired Rojas with Ohtani on deck. And that, I thought, flipped the game. And really, it was like, when that inning ended, I'm like, oh, we actually have a real shot now. That it seemed like all the wheels were going to fall off there. So just listen, I said this at the end of last week, and I'll toss it to you. I love to talk about schedules. I love to scoreboard watch. I love to talk about stealing games and these type of things. What pitchers are you facing? Folks, that's all when you build a team that you think is going to be, an 87, an 88 win team, maybe max 90, 91. If there's a really, really good team in there, none of that stuff matters. You think the Dodgers are sitting there going, oh, that's a game we should have won. No, we'll sweep the next series. We'll be fine. Right? That's what great teams do. This team, through 18 games, considering their schedule, and forget Japan, through the last 16 games, they've won 11. They've won 11 of 16. They've played one team that doesn't have playoff aspirations during that time, and they've played gosh darn good baseball, and they might just be a really good baseball team.
Yeah, that's the most exciting prospect right now to see play out in real time. At least it is for me.
They didn't even have Suzuki tonight.
Yeah, and hopefully they have him. Maybe the Padres series finale. He was
Saturday. By then he should be IL.
I don't know about that. Wrist discomfort.
How many days do you have to miss to be? If he's going to miss 5 games?
Well, that would be missing 3.
We missed today. Oh yeah, right.
Oh boy. Seiya suffered the injury in the Rangers series after sliding into a base.
No more sliding for Seiya. No more sliding.
He's day to day, but and I don't know if you're joking, but if there is an IL stint, I think it would be just 10 days. But they need to make a decision Monday afternoon then. Carson Kelly was removed from Sunday's game after getting hit by a pitch on the hand. He did catch 1 inning after getting hit, though. So maybe he is day to day.
X-rays negative, by the way.
Okay.
So that's good news.
So we'll find out more about all this when the clubhouse opens about 5 Central in San Diego on Monday. It's going to be Tyone and Cease. And, when Ray came out of the game and Keller came in, I was wondering what the Cubs wondered about this one. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think that they had any inkling of punting.
No.
But it was always a good game. And for Ray to exit, it's only 1-1. I was excited about that. And I enjoyed this one. Hodge and Presley, I blinked, and their appearances were over. That was so refreshing, so encouraging.
Unbelievable.
And PCA had a wake-up game here. And Bush with a tremendous series after all the very odd Mervis narratives, just strange. No offense, but just strange. And who else has been called out recently?
Well, I just want to say this. Can I just say on Seiya?
Yes.
I really like to taking the extra base is great. Just hit, man. The sliding. Remember, we were there on Saturday. He had a really awkward slide.
He got hit in the head.
Yeah, and I believe he got hurt. Didn't he get hurt sliding his first year here?
That sounds right.
With his finger
in the home.
Yeah, it was something with his hand or his finger. Like, just we need the bat in the lineup, okay? Go station to station. Be careful, please.
I think he's going to play Tuesday.
Yeah. Maybe give him an extra day against Cease.
I think he's going to play Tuesday. Yeah.
No, this was So much more to come.
Yes,
This
including
was
Kyle Tucker momentum for an extension.
no real momentum, and
Yeah.
real momentum that I started to change my tone. Tuesday night, I'm solo. That last segment of that show was the first time I ever publicly was like, you know what? Because in my head it was about a 5% chance, and I raised it all the way to about 25, 30, just talking to some people. Now the murmurs are starting to happen. So really good stuff there. The
Mike DePortes.
PCA thing's a little bit odd, but we'll talk about that. And between that, the Steele injury, and the Cubs just went into one of the greatest teams ever assembled's house. Took 2 out of 3, and on Saturday they got a 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions. It was just this team, man. There's never a dull moment, is there?
There's not. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. We are here 5 episodes per week, Monday through Friday, talking about all things Cubs. If we're in it, we posted it. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB channel on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Cubs 11-7 going into San Diego for a 3-gamer against the Padres. We'll be back after that one. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.
Go Cubs.